what is the life cycle of a banger? Because I've struggled with this too. How do you know? Do you just know it's a banger, or are you just sending it out there like an early track? And
I mean, there are some times where you post something or you make a meme or like, I don't know, just say something and you just know when you're like typing it, like this is gonna hit.
Welcome to a special edition of Loaded and Rolling. I'm Thomas Wasson. Very excited to be talking to the man, the myth, the legend, Reed Loustalot.
You got it right, dude.
I did get it right.
Got it right. I was expecting you to screw it up.
I was like, geez. Let me go to the official title list here. It's like reading the titles of a king here. Chief Marketing Officer at Truck Parking Club, co-founder and board member of Lost Freight. We're going to be talking about his story, memes into dreams.
Yeah.
You got the hats. You've got best of both worlds.
Yeah, we got a lot going on, man. Yeah, no, it's good to be here. Just moved to town, so I'm here for all these in-person interviews now. So it's good to break the ice with an old friend, Mr. Thomas Wasson.
And we're doing the lore. This is going to be part of the lore and the backstory. Now, I don't think anyone's recorded it for posterity, so there's a little bit of a documentarian in me right now.
Well, let's do it, baby.
So tell us the origin stories. How did you get into this crazy industry?
I needed a job, like most people. I had just graduated from college in 2016. I moved to Boston because my now wife was living there, and I was like, I didn't have any leads on a job, but literally just graduated and moved out. A buddy of mine who was a year older than me in school had worked at Echo as a carrier sales rep, and he was like, hey, we have a Boston office. You should apply. And I was like, I don't know what a freight brokerage is. I have no idea. But I read the job description and it said that you got to look at maps. And I'm like, I love maps. Like, I'm a big map guy. So sounds good. So I interviewed, got the job offer, and I was like, it was I think I did one other interview for like some marketing firm, ironically. And I was like, no, I'm not interested in that at all. And so anyway, I took the freight brokerage job, carrier sales, in Boston for Echo. And I did that I was there for 3 years, and then I moved to Chicago to go check out the HQ, and still doing carrier sales. And then COVID started, so I moved back to Boston, and then I ended up getting a job at Trimble because the guy who had hired me at Echo was a good friend of mine at that point, and he was like, "Hey, come over here and do this with me." And I was like, "Okay." So I did that, and I worked there for a year and a month, and then I got laid off. So that would have been March of 22, and then in March of 22, I did a little freight brokering on the side, 1099 stuff for a buddy of mine who has an Armstrong agency. So I did kind of cradle to grave stuff with him. So that was interesting. And then basically around the same time, I just kind of started experimenting with doing my own things. So basically from 22 to, I guess, 24 May, I just did a bunch of random stuff. Like I started an online freight community in Discord and was doing events in there, got a bunch of people in there. And I had Lost Freight, which was just an online program that a buddy of mine and I built for trucking companies, just a little SaaS tool. Did that, started selling hats, and just all of it was kind of just fed by screwing around on the internet, making memes, just stirring the pot basically. And so I met a lot of people along the way. And then I guess I met Evan from Truck Parking Club, CEO, I met a FreightWaves show actually in Cleveland, which was, I guess, 23, June of 23. And we just became friends and did some work on the side for him for about 6 months. And then he asked me if I wanted to join full time. And that was about a year and some change ago. And so, yeah, a lot's happened in the last, I guess, 4 years since I went out on my own, but it's been a wild ride. And I guess that's the Cliff Notes version. Where do you want to go? What do you want to click into?
Got the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you mentioned COVID. I got laid off as well. I was a broker at the time.
Yeah.
Do you feel if you'd not been with COVID, you feel like you'd still be a Trimble guy somewhere?
Maybe so. I mean, it's funny. So I started there in January of 21, which was, and I guess I'll zoom out. Like when you're in the brokerage world, the grass is always greener. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, like because it's stressful and there's a lot going on, and it's not, it's a tough job. And so I was, for a while, I was like, man, I would love to go do something else. And I had it in my brain that I was like, I want to get into the tech space and whatever the heck that means. And so I made the jump because my buddy, shout out Mike Kennedy, he was like, hey, come over to Trimble. And I was actually working for Cubics, which was a shipper TMS that Trimble had acquired, I think a year prior to that. And yeah, so I went there, and they laid us off because Trimble went on to sell Cubics. So they bought it and then they sold it. And so they laid off half the department in March or April of 22. And that included me. And if that didn't happen, shoot, I don't know. Who knows?
It's almost like the simulation. It's like
Yeah.
magic. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really thought about a whole lot what would happen if that didn't happen. But yeah, I'm actually looking back, very grateful that it did happen, because it kind of, it's very easy to stay when you're comfortable, to not do anything too crazy, because you're like, I'm here. It's like, but when you're forced and you're kind of pushed, it's like, okay, well, I might as well do something crazy now, because what else am I going to do? You know what I mean?
Let's talk about that, because one of the things I think is really cool is that Lost Freight and Please Advise.
Yeah.
Chicken or the egg? Which one came first?
Well, so I started Lost Freight just because when I was a carrier rep, I always called trucking companies every single day. I would call my carriers and I'd be like, where are your trucks? Where are your trucks? Where are your trucks? And they never just like told me proactively where they had capacity. You know what I mean? It was like pulling teeth for me to help them find freight. And so I was just like, well, wouldn't it be great if all my carriers just sent me a truck list instead? Because some of them do that. And so I just built a simple tool with my buddy Jake, and yeah. And so that was, I guess, that came first, but the Please Advise things started because, well, everyone says it in the industry, right? It's common parlance. Like, everyone knows what it means. You basically would rather say, like, what the F's going on? I don't know if I can curse on this show. That was close. They probably,
we'll beep it out.
The sound room guys are like, oh man, that was close. No. So I said it 1,000 times. Any freight broker says that all the time. It's like, what's going on? Right? Where the heck are you? And so that it was right around the time when ChatGPT came out. And so I'd picked up some simple coding skills along the way. And I was like, they had this API. I was like, I want to screw around and make something funny with this and see if I can get it to go kind of viral. And so what I did was I made a excuse generator. I was like, what is a tool that we could use this API for to like help truck drivers? And then I was like, oh, well, of course, making up excuses for why they're late. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just call it Please Advise, because, please advise, why are you late? Okay, here's your excuse. You know what I mean?
Some people use that, right? I think people I tried using it and it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it just came up with like, I was abducted by aliens, like, I'm sorry, so it was, hopefully nobody used it in a serious context, but hopefully it provided some laughs. So I basically was like, it was just kind of an experiment to see if I could, generate some attention online. And we just had literally like a counter of how many excuses had been generated. I think we got a couple thousand in like days, which was just more of like an experiment in just distribution, I guess. And so I think I did that in I think that was like February of 2023. And so that came then. And then the hats were, I somehow got it into my head that I was like, I'm just going to write Please Advise on a hat. And so literally like this one on paper, I just had a hat laying around in my house, and I was like, I'm just going to tape over this hat with this, notebook paper with Sharpie and just wear it. So I wore it to Matt's. That was the first event I ever wore it to, was Matt's in 2023, where I happened to meet all the guys on Twitter that I'd been, engaging with, like Lombard and Gord and Justin Martin and Chris Thomas and, a bunch of other people. And so I basically just wore it there, and everyone's like, and then people were like, why are you wearing that hat? Like, why it just is weird. Why are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's kind of funny. Like, I'm just going to wear it. And then I just started asking folks, like, jokingly, like, if I made, real hats, would anyone buy them? And some people were like, oh yeah, sure. And other people were like, well, very few people even responded. But anyway, whatever. I did it, and I made 12, I think, the first ones, and I sold them all. And then I made more and sold, and just kept selling them. So it just kind of became a little thing. And I would bring some with me to shows and sell them out of my backpack for fun. And it just was like, I don't know, screwing around
But it
basically.
was marketing. I think that's what's remarkable because there's a very amazing theme of how you've organically being a carrier sales rep, doing these sales roles. You see, there's money on the table,
Yeah.
and with the hat, it's something like I bought a hat. I'm an owner of a Please Advise hat. I
Did
think
you
it's
get a certificate of authenticity?
Yeah, I do have the certificate. I still have it all. Like, how did you know if it would take it off? Was there any kind of signal?
Not really. I mean, I mean, it was very low risk for me. You know what I mean? Like, I bought 12 of them. I think it was like, 10 or $12 per. It's a funny story. I called this local embroidery shop. I was living in Scottsdale at the time, and I called this embroidery shop. I was like, "Hey, I need you to make some hats that say Please Advise on it." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, just do it." And so I ordered 12. And then when I went to pick them up the first time, the guy was like, "Yeah, it's kind of funny. Um, when we sent the order to the person to make the hats, they were like, 'Well, what do you want it to say?' And they were like, 'No, it's supposed to say Please Advise.'" She thought it was like them saying Please Advise, like, make these hats. And so it just caused some confusion in the embroidery shop. So anyway, it was kind of a funny story. I didn't know if I would sell any of them, but like, it kind of just worked out, and I just started selling them. And I probably I never actually made as many as there probably was demand for, just because I like would rather have less and have there be people asking for them than have too many and like have all these hats sitting around. So I never really made a whole bunch at a time. I think the most I ever made at a time was like 50, something like that. So I would order small batches and sell them and wait for a little bit and screw around, and people would see them and they'd ask me for them. I'd be like, "I don't have any, man. Sorry." Like, so
We followed you over the journey. Didn't you post about, because at first I swear I saw some of your posts where you're like, "Well, crap, I screwed up the shipping," or "Crap, I figured that," you like walked us through it.
Yeah. I was, there was a thing in on Twitter at the time that was like, build in public. And so I was like, I'm just going to like, well, have fun with it, because I think at one point I gave myself the title like 3-figure e-commerce founder or something like that. And then when I got to $1,000 in revenue, I was like 4-figure e-commerce founder. And then people were like, well, there was one guy, I can't remember who it was, but there was some guy on Twitter who was like trying to piece apart well, he must be making like, 50% margin on these things if he's selling them for 40. I was like, okay, whatever. So I stopped posting about that, which was really dumb in hindsight. I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, no, it was just an experiment in I don't know. There was not much thought.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally just kind of fun. I liked packing them and doing the certificates and taking them to the post office. And I felt like a shipper, you know what I mean? Like, I was involved in logistics in a new way. So it was fun. And I'm definitely going to do some more stuff here in the near future. Probably get a little more outrageous. We'll see. But
What would be the most outrageous thing? Like a type of hat, or is it?
I want to make better shirts. Like, I made a couple shirts last summer, and I was experimenting with just like print to order. So like, literally you just upload a design to a site and you can just port the product you make onto your Shopify store. And when people order them, they print them. And I wasn't super thrilled with the quality. So I was like, I just stopped. But I have some ideas for some like outrageous shirts. I like, tie-dye and just like kind of psychedelic designs and like really kind of crazy stuff. So I've got some designs in the work that I think people will like. So we'll more to come.
We're gonna timestamp this. Remind me in 6 months.
That's fine. If I don't do it in 6 months, then I've got issues. But because it's been a while. But yeah, no, it was one of those things where like it kind of just took on a life of its own, and it was just kind of fun.
I think it's part of a larger. That's one thing I really think is fascinating is you've managed to use social media and create this outreach from very non-traditional means, this FreightX community on the X platform, posting on LinkedIn. Tell us a little bit about some of that journey. What were some of the things you learned along the way? Because every time I deal with marketing people, they're extremely straight-laced and they're almost like robots.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just, like I think the kind of freight community was like ripe for the kind of content that I was putting out, because there's so many crazy things that happen in your day to day, in one of these kind of like operations or sales roles, where just like, oh, truck broke down, like crazy story, and really humor for me the whole time was like how I really made light of it all and kind of kept going through it, because I was like, man, this is it's stressful, but it's like also absurd, and it's like kind of funny if you think about it. And so I just like, it just, the kind of sarcastic humor about it all really just kind of hit, and it kind of it came naturally to me too. I think if it didn't come naturally to me, it would have never worked, because it's just kind of one of those things. You have to do it. You have to post a lot to like get anywhere. You know what I mean? You have to do it for a long time. And if you're not just doing what makes sense to you, then like you'll probably never come up with the output over a long enough time to be able to really break through anything. And so it was just, day in, day out, just screwing around, meeting people, chopping it up. And yeah, so I really have no idea what I'm doing.
What goes behind? That was what I was curious. Is it one of those things where, are we talking like crafted bangers? What is the life cycle of a banger? Because I've struggled with this too. How do you know? Do you just know it's a banger, or are you just sending it out there like an early track? And
I mean, there are some times where you post something, or you make a meme, or like, I don't know, just say something, and you just know when you're like typing it, like, this is gonna hit. And that's just something that, and then there are times where you like, you think it's going to be good, and it just falls flat. So these days, right now, I have not posted nearly as much as I used to for a while, and that's for a variety of reasons. I've been kind of busy.
You're a CMO now. You're
yeah. But I mean, it's like it's I don't know, man. You just got to have fun, and you got to like show people. You know what I mean? And so I think most people are probably overthinking it. The key is to not really overthink anything. I think you just kind of got to put stuff out there and see what sticks, and just do it a lot.
Well, there's an authenticity to what you do as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a good. I mean, it's true, and I think there's kind of a buzzword aspect to authenticity. People are like, oh, what's the key to building a personal brand? Authenticity. I'm just like, I guess, yeah, it's true, but like, I don't think people spend enough time really understanding like their own unique perspective and voice. You know what I mean? And like, I think people get caught up in trying to be like authentically somebody else in some ways. You know what I mean? Or trying to copy, like, what'd you do? It's like, well, what I did is like not what you should do. Like, you got to figure out what you should do. Does that make sense? I think people got to stop overthinking it. Just start sending it, basically.
Just don't be afraid to just put yourself out there and see.
No. You'd be surprised how little people pay attention, especially in the beginning. Like, if you just start making content, like, nobody is going to pay attention for a long time, and you kind of just you gotta just put it out there. But then, like, as stuff picks up, it's like, still people really don't always pay attention, So it's funny when we launched Lost Freight back in the day, I spent like 5 hours writing a Twitter thread that nobody read. Nobody read it. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And so I was like, in hindsight, I'm just like cringing. I'm like, why did I do that? That is so dumb. Like, what a waste of time. Because nobody cares. Like, you got to just, doesn't mean it's not a useful exercise to do in the moment, like, because it's practice, whatever. And so I don't regret doing that. But like, it's just, most people don't really care in the beginning.
Don't obsess over the details in the beginning. Just post.
Yeah. I mean, I just have fun.
Talk about Discord. You've done something amazing. You've managed to get truck drivers to use Discord. I play video games a lot. I'm kind of that's a rare thing. I can hardly even get them to do like text tracking when I used to be in the game.
Yeah, well, I feel a sense of guilt because I have not done nearly as much to maintain the Discord community, just because I'm doing a million things. And so, I mean, for a while there, though, we were doing events like every single week, and we would get 50, 60 people sometimes on like Tuesday nights at like 9 p.m. doing like tech demos and stuff like that. And that was obviously not, there were definitely drivers who would come to those and like just be like, what's going on? Like what are in a very interesting setting. So I Discord is a not super, I mean, it's definitely a gaming platform first. So there was certainly a challenge in getting people to like download it and get on, but like it's getting people in a room talking is really all you have to do. And that took a long time though. I mean, I actually started that initially thinking it would be like a customer feedback channel for like our customers. And then I just realized like, oh, I'm just going to invite people I meet like on Twitter or on LinkedIn or whatever. And then I just was like, oh, why don't we just meet and talk about tech? Or why don't we just, get somebody from Twitter? Like I did probably 5 or 6 events where Craig did one where I called it the arena, which was in hindsight kind of cringe too, because everyone was calling stuff the
But
arena.
It worked.
It did. And we had like 3-4 hour conversations in there where we would just kind of chop it up in front of like a whole, 50, 60 person audience. And then we'd bring them up and it was cool. So no, it was a lot of fun. And I wish I had all the time in the world to maintain it. And I probably, if I were smart, would have found people to help me work on it. And I still could do that. And I've been kicking myself lately because I feel like occasionally people will be like, well, when are you going to do another event? And I'm just like, oh man, like, I guess I'm the only one who can really do it. Unless I actually spend time setting people up to do it, like it's not going to happen. So I need to do more there too. I need to make more merch. I need to do more events. I need to do more of everything, I guess. But one other thing you realize is there's not all the time in the world, unfortunately.
Time is the problem. What's crazy is you're describing to me an organic community building effort with the top of funnel. You're doing the equivalent of webinars. You've reversed engineered it and there's a purpose behind it, but at the same time, you're not taking yourself too seriously and it's authentic.
Well, yeah, it is definitely authentic for better or worse. You know what I mean? Like and one of the reasons why I took the job at Truck Parking Club when Evan offered it to me was because I knew that left to my own devices, doing my own stuff, being on my own, I would never learn like 99% of the stuff that I would have to do in this job. And so it was just basically like, in very similar to how I probably wouldn't have done any of the things I did if I didn't get fired. Like, same thing, I probably wouldn't have learned how to do all these things if I didn't take this opportunity. Obviously, I thought it was a tremendous opportunity too. So great across the board. It made total sense. But like, really, I just knew at the end of the day, like this would force me to do things that I would never do on my own. So that was, and that is, I guess, who I am too. Some people are, can do everything on their own and they're fine and great. But that's not always been me. So just about knowing yourself,
Well, let's talk about Truck Parking Club. You met Evan at F3. Let's play catch up. Let's talk about the lore leading up to getting to take this role, and then we'll dive into what y'all are working on.
Yeah. So I met Evan in it wasn't F3. It was Future of Supply Chain.
The other one, RIP.
RIP, Future of Supply Chain. Yeah. Yeah. So I went to that event in June of 23, and I met Evan, and I think he had started the company like 6 months prior. I think like November 22, he started it. And so, but he rolled in with his van, and I met him, and he was like, hey, what's going on? And we just kind of became friends. And actually, I always forget to tell this part of the story, but at that event, I can't remember how it happened, but like I was talking to Dooner, and I came up, I was selling hats at the event, and me and Dooner were talking. Dooner's like, well, you want to come on What the Truck at the event? I was like, yeah, sure. And then I can't remember the exact story, but I was like, why don't I come on and pitch like this fake company called hatsasaservice.com. And I brought Evan with me, and him and I were on What the Truck pitching this fake business to the crowd, talking about hats as a service. And I made a website in like 5 minutes and put it up. And it was literally just like a site that said like, you buy this hat, but you gotta subscribe to wear it. I was like, this is so stupid. And people in the crowd were like, what what is this? Like, why are these jack wagons up here?
Straight laced.
Yeah, it's totally straight laced. Anyway, yeah. So I met Evan then, and we just kind of became friends. And he was starting out, and I was doing my thing, and we just kind of stayed in touch. And eventually, it came to the point where he was like, do you want to come help us with our socials and just like social media stuff? And I was like, yeah, I need to figure out how to make some money, eventually here, because I was selling hats and I had my, Lost Freight and whatever. But I needed to make money. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so they essentially became my customer. I was just working on the side, and I basically got a peek behind the curtain at what they were doing and really started to think about what problem Truck Parking Club was trying to solve, kind of who it was for, what the scale of opportunity was, and all that stuff. And really just met the team too. At that point, it was only a handful of people. But even then, it was still like colorful characters like Hunter, who's doing most of the content. And I was like, these are the perfect people to solve this huge problem. And they have, in my mind, a very solid solution to the truck parking problem. And so I was like, did that on the side for, I guess, I don't know, 6 months. And fast forward to like April of 24, I guess, Evan was like, do you want to come on board full time? And I was like, yeah, of course. Because obviously, the thing I said about learning all these things that I would have never done, but also just, it just made a lot of sense. Like I'd gotten to know everybody. I'd kind of seen what was going on, and I was reading the writing on the wall. I was like, this is going to be huge. Like I should be part of this. You know what I mean? And so I said yes, basically right away, and came on board full time. And I guess that was May 1, I think, was like my start date basically last year. And we had, I think, like 300 something locations.
Yeah.
We call them property members. We had 300 something at that point, and whatever. Fast forward now, we've got 2,090 something, I think, today, and man, it's been a wild ride. So
folks are going to ask, under 6 months, you've doubled.
Yeah.
2,000 member locations, 40,000 reservable spots. Any kind of the things, when you talked about peeking behind the curtain, was there any kind of the things that you took from Please Advise, Lost Freight, building it? Was it kind of a 1-for-1, or was there some other stuff in the 23 herbs and spices that you feel like, you had to get added in?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that had to get added in. I didn't know anything about, advertising. I didn't know anything about really email marketing. I didn't know anything about how the business worked, right? Like marketplaces were marketplace. I didn't know anything about that. So I really, and I think I actually said to Evan when he was like, do you want to do this? I was like, bro, I don't know how to do any of the things that I'm going to have to do. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. That's all good. You'll figure it out. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. So, I think I had just a very raw ability to like an understanding of how to like generate attention. And they had a very, they were the perfect kind of like brand with the right product in the right domain in a massive market where I thought I was going to be able to apply my raw skills, but also learn how to do all these other things and make a huge impact. Because it is, such, where ultimately our product is for, such a large amount of people, truck drivers and fleets and properties, that like I was going to be able to do a bunch of stuff and like learn how to do a bunch of stuff. And it was going to be, all of it was going to have an impact too. So, it's been I don't remember your exact question, but
no, we're cooking. It's almost like guerrilla marketing, because it takes an unorthodox, raw energy kind of guy to tackle these It's hard to find drivers to even get a hold of them, and you guys have figured that part out.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and I think it definitely helps that I was a broker for so long, and I've talked to who knows how many drivers, tens of thousands, and worked with them and have a lot of driver friends. And but it also helped that like I don't do, like, I'm not the guy in front of the camera in most of our content. Like, it's obviously Hunter and Evan, but I just looking at that, I was like, okay, like this is the perfect cast of characters to put in front of the camera. Because they're fun loving, Hunter is crazy. And I think they're the perfect folks to like relate to drivers too. And Hunter can talk to a wall for, forever. And I think he's done an excellent job being kind of the character, the face of the brand. And they're out there talking to drivers every day, going to events, all that stuff. And so as like as a God, I never thought I'd call myself a marketing guy. I don't really.
You're a marketing guy. You're anointed.
Say that.
We have, we throw some water on you.
Yeah, I mean, but just like it's like the perfect, story to tell. I just thought good characters. So yeah, man, it's been good. But it's been a wild ride, and we're very much still in the early stages of this. It's grown a lot in a year since I joined. But I mean, literally in another 6 months, we'll look back and we'll be like, holy cow, like, can you believe where we were, 6 months ago? And we're just going to do that every 6 months for years to come now. So it's, we're having a lot of fun, and we've added, a bunch of people to the team.
You got Brent Hutto.
Yeah, we got Brent.
Talk about that.
Yeah, Brent, when Evan was like, hey, I think I'm going to try to hire Brent, I was like, wow, what a good idea, Evan. And Evan's it's awesome because Evan is the perfect guy to be in his job. He's an excellent CEO. And I think he's also very good at knowing when he needs to supplement his weaknesses in other people. And I think that's why he hired me. I think that's why he's hired a bunch of people. And I think it's definitely why he's hired Brent, because Brent's, an industry veteran. He knows everybody. He likes everyone. He can talk to, just random people about their families for like an hour when he met them like 5 years ago and ask about all their children. Like he's the perfect guy to be doing what he's doing. And Evan had the foresight to understand that we needed somebody like that to do what Brent's doing, which is essentially like kind of approaching large fleets. And so we brought Brent on, I think officially sometime in February.
Yeah.
And he's been a tremendous addition to the team. Super good guy. We jokingly call him like the adult in the room because he's, Brent, he's gonna punch me just for saying he's an old guy, but yeah, I
grizzled, seasoned veteran.
He is a seasoned veteran. I like to say he's wise beyond his years, and he has many years. But no, it's been great to work with Brent. I really, I think it was a great hire, and yeah, Brent. We just hired a guy to run our fleet sales program, which is essentially like, fleets need to position equipment essentially, and they need bulk spaces to like drop trailers or store trucks or whatever. And we brought a guy on, a former colleague of mine from Echo actually, to run that. And I've hired a couple people. We hired Lombard, and Lombard's running our partner program.
He took your Google photo. I Googled you to do my research, and I see a big old picture of Lombard all jacked up like he's about to run a marathon.
You know what? I took that picture. I tweeted that picture. Maybe that's why it's showing up. But yeah, that was him at Matt's, like making coffee or something. Yeah, we hired Lombard. I've hired basically just people I've met on Twitter, basically. And so it's been fun. I had never hired anyone before. Because I basically was just solo for all those years, and but yeah, man, it's been good. Everything I say, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, because it has been a lot of fun.
You're like a boss now. You were the solo operation. Now you're like,
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But it's cool though, because in today's day and age, like you don't really need a whole lot of people to like run an operation because of how like all the tools out there. And so I've really just been focused on finding like the right people that are like super smart and can kind of like go out on their own and figure it out, and B, they're just like fun to work with, creative, like smart people, fun people. And so Lombard fits that pretty well.
So let's put the CMO hat on. I know we have the please advise hat on.
Yeah.
A lot of questions people ask me, and I have questions myself. I'm not nearly as prolific nor successful as you, so I tip my metaphoric hat. Where do you start out with? It feels so much. LinkedIn, X platform, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagrams. There's like 20 different avenues. And so when you're thinking about that, you kind of have this organic knack. I feel like you've got this kind of instinct about you. What did you see? What draws you? What's
Uh,
the light to the metaphorical moth?
I think you got to just pick one thing to do first, and just do that for a long time. They call it on Twitter shouting into the void.
It feels that way.
Yeah, because in the beginning, if we're talking about like, content and stuff like that, it's like as I said earlier, you kind of just you got to shout a lot and nobody's going to listen for a long time.
And that's okay.
And that's fine. Yeah. And if you're having fun doing it, then that's not really a big deal. You know what I mean? If it comes naturally to you, you can do that forever. But yeah, I would say, yeah, just start. That's really it. Just do it. Figure it out. If you're talking about people who are like, have ideas for companies or products or anything like that, same thing. I mean, the same advice applies to all of it. And I appreciate you saying I'm successful. I would say I'm in the very early stages of my success, and I've got a long way to go. But
and that's why I'm going to save this interview. I'm going to say, look, I was there when the Beatles were doing their early gigs in Liverpool. This posterity. I wanted to record the lore because I think there's a lot of value watching your career rise and watching that of Truck Parking Club.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you can pay a marketing PR firm $15,000 a month. They still can't pull off what you guys are doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I can't take a whole lot of credit for the success of the business. If Evan were here, he'd be like, "Oh, Reed." I'm just like, but I'm sitting here being like, Evan, you know what I mean, or Hunter, or like anyone else on the team, because in our our customer care department, like all the drivers we have on staff, like, I don't. We don't have a lot of people who try to take credit. You know what I mean? I don't really care about credit. I just want us to win. You know what I mean? And I want us to park more trucks, and I want us to have a serious impact on a serious problem. And I think we're going to do it.
Let's talk about how it works.
Yeah.
A parking aggregator, Airbnb, like
so we're a marketplace. So we help drivers find reserved parking at our property member locations, using our mobile app and website. And all of the locations, so we've got 2,096, I think. All of them are third-party businesses. So we don't own, lease, or operate any of them. So it is literally like using Booking and Airbnb. And all of them are, folks with space for truck parking. So trucking companies, we've got hundreds of trucking companies that have extra space in their yard, and they've listed their space on our marketplace, and drivers can use our app to pay them to park at their location. So we've got trucking companies, we've got towing companies, we've got self-storage operators, we've got warehouses, we've got CDL schools, we've got Amish markets, we've got racetracks, we've got, just insert here, industrial space for truck parking. Like we've got somebody.
Can we do somewhere. An Amish market? Can we do a truck parking club collab at an Amish market?
We should. I think that one's in Ohio. I would like to go there someday.
They have the horse and buggies next to a rig.
Yeah, right. But yeah, man, it's definitely, it's an interesting solution to a problem that's kind of gripped the industry for a long time. Parking's expensive to build. And when Evan was starting the company, he was actually initially going to try to buy and build locations. And he tried to do one in Florida, and the municipality was like, we're not going to let you build any truck parking here, even though it was like zoned properly. And so he was like, what is going on? If there's such an issue, but you can't build it, like, how does that make any sense? Like, and then he was like, oh, well, if we can't build it, there's got to be existing space that's suitable, but it's just disconnected. It's fragmented, and there's no kind of connective tissue to make it all work. And so the marketplace model just made a lot of sense. And a way to kind of easily bring on, well, easily, quote unquote, because it definitely wasn't easy, but a kind of a scalable solution where we could turn on new capacity, overnight as quickly as we could get it. And so I think it'd be good sometime for somebody to really, get Evan to sit in one of these chairs and tell the story early on, because I think he, fought tooth and nail for a long time to get anybody to pay attention to anything, to do one booking. You know what I mean? I think, they probably in the beginning probably had like one booking every week, you know what I mean? And we do thousands now. And so it's because it's one of those things where, like, I guess I'll tell this story. Tracy, who runs our customer care department, and so our customer care department is customer service essentially. The people who answer the phones, they're all former drivers, all of them. And Tracy, the woman who runs that department, was I think she said the 17th person to book a spot on Truck Parking Club ever. 17, number 17. And so she needed to park. She was a driver. She's been a CDL holder for 30 something years. She found it somehow, booked a spot, and Evan ended up calling her being like, hey, how'd it go? Just essentially feedback. And they just got to talking, and he's like, hey, do you want to come work for me and come work on this with me? And so she was the first employee, and she's now built a whole team and is like running customer service now. She was an owner operator for 30 years. And now runs a customer service department. Like, it's crazy. And so they have, I'm sure they have, and I've heard most of them, but I won't tell them, but like they have crazy stories from getting this thing off the ground. And so it's wild, man.
It's a positive feedback loop because you're approaching this a lot of times on the regulatory side. We need to put $200 million for parking.
Yeah.
We're going to build some lots. We're going to grade these lots. Like, we're going to do all this property. And then you all are looking at it like the opposite. Like, anywhere I look, I'm going to try to fit a parking spot if I can.
Yeah. I mean, all you need is one space, to join our platform. So we have folks who have one space. We have folks who have 300 and everyone in between. And so, it is expensive to build truck parking, and it's slow. And if we're talking about kind of government funded truck parking, which is kind of an aspect of the solution, is like, okay, well, the government could go build more parking, and we certainly support that. But I mean, it takes a long time, and it's hard to get through, and there's all sorts of, people who don't want parking near them, and a litany of other reasons why it's hard to do. But that's one thing. And then, at the end of the day, I think it costs like $100 to $200,000 a spot for these projects at the end of the day. So, I mean, that's, very expensive, and then you need space, and there's not, there's only so many places you could put a rest area, and so it's if the scale of the problem is so huge and it takes so long and it's so expensive to build more space, that like it would take just a long time for there to be any sort of solution in that domain. Doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. Of course it should happen. And taxpayer money going to truck parking is good, and we support that. But we're just like, okay, what can we do now? And what we can do now is go find all the places that exist that maybe they're parking trucks there now, but it's just their trucks. And they have, the economic incentive to make use of that extra space. And we make it possible for them to do that. And we go out and find drivers who need parking and say, hey, here you go. Book this spot.
I got a twofer for you. So one of the things, I spoke with a parking solution that was paid built during an F3. And that was one thing they said was the problem was you can allocate maybe 200 mil for parking.
Yeah.
But Uncle Sam will build it, and they're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you just got a lot.
Yeah.
And then it's like, who's going to take care of it?
Yeah.
And so it's like how that, at least with what y'all are offering, somebody's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And they're getting something out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, that's definitely the case. And it's crazy when you drive by rest areas that are closed and you're like, well, what's going on? Why is it closed? And it's like, well, it needs maintenance, and there's no, if there's no money allocated for maintenance, there's nobody to do it. It's like, it's just going to sit closed. And, you see this, I mean, you see that all the time. So
I got a wild thought for you.
Yeah.
So you've got over 40,000 spots now. Have y'all done research? How many theoretical total spots? It's almost like kind of count fish in the ocean, I know, but is there ever a potential where you can make your own little parking index, being like, where are the places that I'm seeing the most activity?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because, obviously at our scale, which is still in the grand scheme of things, like not huge, not compared to where we will be, but like we are essentially the market for kind of private truck parking at this point. And so we do have a large amount of data. And so one thing we're doing now, and this is kind of, I'll say coming soon, this is a little teaser for everyone. We are actually working on a project that's essentially kind of like a state of the truck parking market, sort of piece of content research, if you will. And so we were curious about how many spaces are there. And so we're working on that. I don't know the number exactly, but we are working on something that hopefully we'll be able to take a stab at the best answer we can come up with and share that with the world here soon.
Let's talk about growth. Want to reach 10,000 is the next milestone I saw in the release.
Yeah.
We're at over 2,000 now. Expansion plans. Where does one go to help build this parking, not as in build, but activate it? Where
Yeah.
it's almost like you're prospecting for gold or
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
Where do we go for truck parking?
I mean, to sign up with us is simple. You just go to our site and hit become a property member, truckparkingclub.com. In the top right, if you're on a computer, or in the little sidebar that pops up on mobile, there's a become a property member button. You press that, and then we just have a simple draft process where you write a description, check boxes for whatever amenities you have on site. So like cameras, security, gate, fence, anything like that, photos, all that stuff. And so we have a process that properties go through to draft a listing. Then they get on with one of our property onboarding team specialists, and they kind of verify the listing, make sure everything makes sense, make sure it looks suitable, not residential or anything where you don't want to actually park trucks. And then if everything looks good, thumbs up, on board. And as soon as they're on, they are live, and in some cases they're getting bookings same day. So it's very simple. We get people live like pretty quickly if everything looks good. So yeah.
Does that allow you, because that's one of the big things with me is HVP parking, secure parking.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's almost like I'm looking at a house or a hotel via Airbnb, but with truck parking. I need a place with a closed lot.
Yep.
That's why they're filling all it out.
Yeah, exactly. And you can filter by amenities. So security is a huge thing for some folks who are parking. And so they're like, we just make it simple for them to get exactly what they need. And we do our best. Obviously, it's important that we portray to them exactly what they're getting so that they can make an informed decision. And, it's not all the time that you need super high security. If you're just looking for a place to park for the night, you might not need, some of the amenities. And so we're just like, okay, we need to be accurate about what you're getting so you can make an informed decision, essentially. And and so we've parked hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment so far, and it's been pretty wild. Hundreds of thousands of bookings. The numbers, but even then the numbers are small. I mean, there's millions of trucks on the road, and every truck needs to park, and there's millions on any given day. Millions of trucks out there on the road, and then even millions more parked already, drop trailers essentially, stored equipment. And so, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, fast forward a couple of years, we're going to be huge.
Looking at growth factors, large fleets, small fleets, what's kind of the vibe right now? You've got one of the things I read earlier in an article by Grace Sharkey was that in an interview with Evan, it was driver word of mouth was one of the big things.
Yeah, I think Evan was smart about how he kind of initially started scaling the business, because he really went kind of bottom up. Like, let's start with the drivers. Let's be driver focused. Let's make the tool so simple that anyone can pick it up and book a spot. And so what we found, and that worked. Like, we've had 70 of the top 100 fleets, drivers themselves at these companies have booked with us. And now we're at the point where we're like, okay, fleet A, like, you've had 500 of your drivers book with us. You should be supplying this as a benefit to them, right? Clearly there's demand from your most important employees to use our service. Like, let's make it easier for you, fleet, to do so. And if we had done the reverse and kind of gone top down and had 5 locations and walked into, a mega carrier and been like, hey, you want to park your trucks at our locations? They would have been like, okay, who are you? Where are your locations? Oh, you have 5? Like, why are you talking to me? Basically. Yeah. And so now that we have thousands of locations, and in many situations we talk to fleets and they've had hundreds of bookings with us, that a lot of them, especially the folks higher up, they're not even aware of this, but they're like, oh, wow, like, we're already using you, like, and you're making it easier for us to kind of manage this at scale so all of our drivers can benefit from this. Oh, great. That makes perfect sense. And we're also, doing our best to make sure we're in all the places where these fleets want us to be. So what does that mean? It means integrated into ELD devices, integrated into the cab, right? And so we're now in platform science, for example. And so all of our locations are in there. So anyone who's got platform science can grab our app out of their marketplace and give access to all their drivers that way. And so that's an example. Trucker Path, all our locations are in Trucker Path. So anyone who uses Trucker Path can route to our locations, find parking, book right in Trucker Path. So yeah, it's very much been like top down to start, or excuse me, bottom up to start. But now we're at a point where we've got Brent on the team now, and we do have all this usage from so many drivers. We've got the proof of concept. There's clearly demand. We're able to show it. We have tons of supply, and we're kind of just like now really hitting our stride.
And I'm curious, so a lot of parkings for a 10-hour break, quick turn and burn.
Yeah.
One of my problems for drivers is when they went home for 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
Is that one of the areas of growth? Or is it mostly like a one-off, or is it one of the things where you're seeing a lot of drivers saying, man, I can finally find a spot over the weekend?
Yeah. We get, well, first of all, we do hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly. So not every location offers all options, but most of them offer at the very least daily and monthly. A lot offer weekly. A handful more offer hourly, but we see most of our usage in daily, multi-day, monthly. And so that's everything from, a driver needs a place to park their truck when they go home. We had a Google review a couple days ago being like, I literally needed a spot to go on vacation and park my truck for a couple days and get on a plane. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I found you guys and I was able to park my truck and I got on a plane and I went on vacation. And so that's an example, But I think one thing that's actually super interesting, I know you're a fleet guy, so you'll probably enjoy this, but like, fleets, sophisticated fleets do a lot of drop trailer, right?
Yep.
And they stage equipment, and they for them, that's like a way of operating that's much more efficient than, one driver, one truck, one trailer. We're sitting and getting loaded. We're sitting at delivery. We're waiting, yada yada. And one huge use case that's been revealed to us by our customers is, big fleets have physical footprints. They have yards, et cetera. And smaller fleets, and by smaller, I mean, a 25 truck fleet, still not small according to the numbers, according to the average fleet size, but like they might not have the ability to go out and sign leases on real estate to operate yards, right? And so that might preclude them from chasing certain types of business with certain types of customers. Even if they have the trailers, they might not have a place to put them to operate a drop trailer program. If the warehouse has no space, they're like, well, what are we going to do? Like, we can't do anything. And so we essentially are kind of an on-demand storage or drop yard for fleets of this size who, if they want to chase business that they otherwise couldn't chase, they can now, because we can give them a place to drop trailers. And it's, if they need it for a month, great, they can book it for a month. And if it falls through or doesn't work, then it's not like they signed a 12-month lease, you know what I mean? Or longer. So we're really seeing all sorts of new ways of operating that were kind of limited to only folks who were of a certain scale. And now we're seeing smaller fleets, quote unquote, now being able to do that because of what we are able to provide them.
You kind of answered all my questions, because 3-to-1 ratio a lot of times for big fleets.
Sure.
3 trailers to 1 truck.
Yep.
They got space, the shipper takes it.
Yep.
I have 25 trucks. I can't afford to just have 75 trailers.
Yeah.
So you're almost allowing them to dip their toes in,
yep,
play with the big dogs and get that big, nice.
Yeah.
Rate.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear. I mean, we were at a TCA event in Phoenix in when was that? I don't know, a couple months ago. And we were talking to one of our customers, and they were like, they literally Amon Truck Lines, shout out Amon Truck Lines. They're out of Sacramento, Sacramento area. They have a dedicated computer in their office with our site on it, and they're like just booking spaces all the time, because initially their dispatchers, what they were telling us was like, they were doing drop trailer, they were finding places to store equipment, but it would take them, half a day to find the spot.
Yep.
Because they would be on Google, they'd be picking up the phone, they'd be calling people, they would be, paying people, with paper checks, they'd be mailing checks, or they'd be, dealing cash. And now all they have to do is go to our site, search, and pay right there, and they're good. And so it's like completely changed how they're able to operate. And I mean, I know for a fact there's, countless cases of that sort of thing going on. And I think we're still very much in the early stages of what that actually means. You know what I mean? Like what that is going to, what sort of modes of operating are going to be possible. And they're going to be revealed to us just by asking our customers how they're using us.
I got a far out zinger for you as well.
Yeah.
What about truck charging club?
Well, you know what? Hey, on that note, if we're going on zingers, for April Fool's this year, we came up with private jet parking club.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I even had AI mock up a location with a private, private runway. Anyway,
Did anyone try it?
No. We didn't build the infrastructure. It was just a stupid social post. Dude, we get a lot of charging folks. They hit us up all the time. They're like, hey, can we put charging infrastructure? We're like, hey, if it turns out there's demand for that long term, then
they're so thirsty. They want to have somebody charge with them. It's like this weird thing where I talk to these charging infrastructures, and that's one of their big things is like they're trying to solve the same problem you're doing.
Yeah, where do we put it?
Where do we put it?
Yeah. Hey man, who knows? Long term, who knows? Right now, we're just focused on getting more locations and parking more trucks.
So let's talk what's ahead. We're gonna wrap things up. It's been a really fun. You're by the way, this is the first long form Loaded and Rolling episode.
It's an honor.
We've got a lot of firsts. What's ahead? You just moved to Chattanooga as well. You're now in a new city, new role, doing all this cool stuff. What?
I don't know, man. I feel like I just got years ahead of me of just kind of figuring it all out, just continuing to focus on growing this business. We've got more up our sleeve. Should I really talk about this? Maybe. We've got a lot of cool stuff in the works. One actually cool thing that we're coming out with is an access control system. So a lot of our locations have gates. They have gate codes. It's like annoying to get out of the truck and punch in a gate code. Sometimes it could be wrong or changed. That's annoying. So we built a little box that sits on the gates, and now drivers can press a button on our app if they have an active reservation, open gates, stuff like that. So that's a new access control system we have coming out. So we're really kind of thinking like full spectrum. Like how should the system work? Like what do we need? What do we need to build to make like the experience great? And there's all sorts of projects that are coming up that are going to be fun to work on, interesting problems to solve, but ultimately make the experience better for everybody. And yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. That's a new thing. And we've got a lot more up our sleeve. I think for me, it's just, I don't know, man, just one day after the other, just figuring it out, and hopefully I'll be able to sell some more hats and then, have more fun. And I don't know.
We're going to look fondly back on this when you've got your private yacht. And I'm asking for an interview again, and you're going to be like, that guy?
Well, hey, man, if I get a yacht one day, then we'll do one of these. It'll be the first one on a yacht, hopefully.
Hey, we have yachting under Fire Crown now. I just get to I'll walk across and make a call. Kid you not, by the way, a guy they flew a guy down there to a place in another country that was really well known, really well known film festival. And it was so cool because the guy had a yacht and he had a whole gaming cans.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm giving it away. I guess so. Yeah. Watch yachting. But there's this cool guy who was like showing off his yacht and he had a cool gaming thing. So
well, if it ever comes to it, we'll do one of these on my yacht.
Final thoughts for folks who want to. You've had an amazing story.
Yeah.
It's something where like always placing yourself outside of your comfort zone, building a talent stack. For folks who want to turn their memes dreams and become a freight legend, what kind of advice would you have for folks watching this?
I don't know, man. Just send it.
Just send it.
Just send it. Yeah, don't think too much. That's it.
Just got to send it. All right. Yeah. Well, Reed, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you sitting down with me as well. This was fun.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Thomas.
It's going to be a wrap for this episode here. If you want to catch it, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, the long form version. So you want to check this out for sure. While you're at it, subscribe to the Loading and Rolling newsletter, FreightWaves.com/loaded and rolling. That's a wrap for this episode. But don't worry, folks. I'll see you again next week.